Right. So, guest, this is your moderator and the panelists. Madam Moderator, your panelists, your moderator. So they will be discussing the topic mental health in marriage and the law when vows turn into a battlefield for sanity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Today, the UTV lady is going to speak English. Don't worry, you are safe. And then I'll just deliver myself with the tree, but we will be fine. I'm glad to be here, and I'm sure we are going to do justice to it. For all the topics that we've had since morning, imagine that you go into a marriage, you have a child, and then 10 years down the line, you are told the child is not yours. What dream people? The men will be crying, but they say men don't cry. It affects their sanity. It affects their mental health. Imagine you stay with a young guy. In fact, the ladies, we fall victims for this, that after school, in fact, in school, at secondary school, we bore inte and neste. At university, you do inte. You stay with this guy, you help him, help me finish my course. After some years, you have been cohabiting with him, and then he comes back to tell you, I am ready to marry. But you know what? Only my class. So all the years you have spent with him, what becomes of you? What becomes of your mental health? And this is what we are going to look at. We pray that the judges and the lawyer, the judge and the lawyer, and the doctor and the advocate, so we have two lawyers and an advocate, one that was as an advocate, and the judge will help us do justice. Maybe by the time we also finish, they will have to look at our Mental Health Act again, if something can be done. The person says, I love you, and yet the person is killing you, and you still have to stay inside. Me manti. Then one day you die and leave the kids. So we just go straight to Dr. Seth, that these things I am narrating, I'm just picking them from here, from what our speakers have been saying. What are the mental health issues that married people go through in their marriages?
Well, I wish there were something very specific. And I always say it depends. Within our field, everything is contextual. Okay. Now, basically, we notice a number of mental health related issues. And the reality is, if you look at mental health, there is always a factor that pushes it out. So many people tend to have their careers, as it were. Okay. Now, marriage can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. For many people, it might be a protective factor. For a few other people, it can be the reason why they have a mental health related issue. Now, commonly, we notice many people have anxiety simply from being in a marriage, which is problematic. And that happens naturally because for humans, many of our worries are about the future. So if you're with somebody who stirs you up negatively today, you are basically going to look into the future based on the current circumstances. And you feel their emotions as if they were real. Okay. So I might be looking into the future and think it would be like this, even though it's not the case. Okay. But I'm starting to feel the pressure of it in the present just by thinking about it. Okay. Now, in excess anxiety would come issues of depression. You know, just feeling like life is unbearable, feeling dull all the time. And then also stems the issue of people trying to cope with it, which brings about most of the addictions that we're facing today. Oh. Now, from a very psychological standpoint, many addictions are coping behaviors. So people start to drink a lot of alcohol, they start using drugs, and in the modern times, the best coping is technology. So I hear lots of people say, my partner is always on their phone. Yeah, well, they're trying to cope. In many regards, what it does for them is that temporarily, as they are on that, their mind is not thinking about the problems. They have something that gives them a sense of excitement that they are coping with. But that same coping then brings even further challenges. So I'm only trying to create a path, but basically the worry of what could happen and not what will happen is the main factor when it comes to mental health in relationships.
Does it degenerate into the other mental health issues?
Well, yes, it does. We always say that when it comes to mental health related conditions, if you talk about causes, there are ones we have control over and things we don't have control over.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the ones that people would say locally, it runs through the blood, genetics, that we have no control over. However, even if somebody has a genetic predisposition, but their stresses are well taken care of, they are less likely to suffer any mental health related issues. But once they have the environmental factors that can push out, so for instance, you might have known someone, or you all know somebody who went through a hard time and then suddenly they lost it. They would have lost a partner or a friend or a job or had a robbery. That was a necessary trigger or stressor. And so think about that stressor as a one-time event. But then when you look at marriage and you are going through a chronic stressor where you see your partner and then literally your BP goes up. And your BP going up is a sign. It's the brain saying that you are in danger.
Okay.
That's what it is. Your BP going up is an adaptive feature. The brain conceptualizes many of the things we don't know, even change, as a danger. So to prepare you to face a physical danger, although this is mental, your heart beats to pump blood into your major muscles to stand and fight or to run. Now, you are not facing a lion, you are facing another human being. That triggers a response like a lion. And that system is supposed to work for a short period of time, but now it's working an end. Because if I were being pursued by a lion within 5 minutes, he finished me or I finish him. But now, this lion seems to be in the background, chasing you all the time, and so your system goes out of balance. So yes, the mental health related issues translate also to the physical.
Okay.
And the explanation of what is happening physically feeds back into the mental. And so you have a cycle that's never ending.
It's cyclical.
All the time.
Can we then say that there's a correlation between mental health and abusive partners or relationship?
Absolutely, because in the abuse is the aura of danger created every single day. In fact, there was an experiment conducted, and I'll try to talk about it. There was a cage, 3 cages, with 2 lambs and 1 wolf.
Okay.
And then the lamb that was closer to the wolf died out of the fear of being devoured in 4 days. So you think about that same situation, walking around eggshells and feeling something could go wrong. What am I going to say next that's wrong? For them to, call me out or insult me or abuse me. So that tension in itself is detrimental, and it's a significant stressor to push out mental health related issues.
So I would like you to take a breather, and then Lady Anne will take it up from there, because now you love this person, and this person is becoming like a lion or a wolf, and you are the sheep. You are staying with this person. You can't go out of it, or that's not even the first option. Is there any protection for you, even as you are living with the person under the same roof?
Okay, so thank you. I think that we should go a little bit into history just to give us some perspective. So mental health in Ghana started maybe around the 1800s, where we had the Lunatic Asylum Act, or Lunatic Asylum Ordinance in 1888. And it criminalized mental disorders. Yes, so that's where you had people being taken away from society so that they can be hidden. Fast forward, we now have the Mental Health Act, which has many provisions that provides rights and protections. Aside the Mental Health Act, we have a mental health regulation. And then the Ministry of Health and Mental Health Authority has also provided a policy from 2019 to 2030 that provides numerous protections for spouses, individuals, relatives, and the ordinary Ghanaian. Now, within the Act, you have provisions for vulnerable persons.
Okay.
Vulnerable persons have been described as females, children, and the elderly. So, for example, for females, when they are being taken care of, they are supposed to be secluded from men. For example, for children, when they are being taken care of, we have to ensure that their basic rights are provided for them. Even going back into our Constitution, which is the basis for which some of these acts have been passed.
Okay.
Everyone who has a mental condition has the right to have a full life. they have the right to basic needs, they have the right to education, they have the right to employment. Even if they are your tenant and they have a mental condition, you cannot evict them. And so the law is available to assist. Now, within the Act as well, we have voluntary treatments and involuntary treatments.
Okay.
So I paint a picture where your spouse has a condition, or you notice that they're acting in a rather weird way.
Okay.
Now, what you can do is find a way to encourage that spouse to seek voluntary treatment, which means getting them into a hospital to be taken care of.
That would have been nice, but then your partner will say, "Oh, purchase my bottom."
Exactly. And so when that happens, at least that should be your first point of call. When that fails, you can come under involuntary treatment orders.
Okay.
That is where, even before you go to the court, you can get a certificate of urgency from a hospital, from a doctor, to say, immediately, I think that my spouse is not feeling well. Find a way, coerce them, go to the hospital. The hospital then gives you that certificate of urgency, and they are taken care of. If that fails, you're not able to use that route, you can also do an involuntary court, apply for an involuntary court order, where you get 2 different medical officers to give their recommendations and prepare reports, which is sent with your application to court.
Okay.
And the judge will be convinced, based on the independent assessment of those people, to take care of them. Aside the involuntary treatment, you can also apply for guardianship, limited guardianship or general guardianship. For limited guardianship, if within a situation something has happened and you think that they're not being able to make a decision for their own welfare, you can apply for limited guardianship, subject to an assessment being done on their conduct.
Still at the courts.
Still at the courts.
How will the courts kind of blend justice with some form of compassion?
So, very good question. In the Act, there are provisions that requires the court to do these professional independent assessments by mental health professionals. So the judge will not just grant an application on the basis that a spouse has brought it, or on the basis that a family member has brought it,
Okay.
but on the basis that they require that a medical officer does an assessment on the person, prepares a report, submits it, and you have to develop a case, and you have to convince the judge with it. So it's not a matter of just the spouse thinking that, say, I want to take advantage of my family member, and so I'm going to come for a court order. Unless the judge is convinced by an independent assessment of a medical officer, a psychiatrist in particular,
Okay.
they don't give that order. So
Do
these
you
are
have to
few.
do this on your own, or you need the help of a lawyer? Because then that means legal fees and other things will come up.
People always say lawyers are expensive, but nothing free comes.
There's no free lunch.
There's no free lunch.
Okay.
But aside that, you do need a lawyer, and you should seek professional help so that you can get the best out of the situation.
Okay. Before I come back to you, Doc, let me go to Lady Edith. Lady Edith, this one looks a bit cumbersome. So somebody thinks, well, I married a healthy person. I didn't do anything to him or her. He has just decided to go haywire. Mawari Bodeni, you don't understand G, right?
No, I do.
You do?
I can't.
That's good. We can flow. So then either marry, an insane person, the best way out, divorce. Is it the best option, or should that be our resort?
So thank you for the question. I will start from even the cultural perspective. In the olden days, I'm not too old, but a little old. Before you married somebody, investigations would be conducted. They would go back and find out if there were certain kind of diseases in the family. And mental health was one of them. Now, We are more avant-garde.
Yay!
We meet people on the street, we are in love, and we are marrying. We think more about having 10 or 20 bridesmaids dancing down the aisle, and not concentrating on what marriage is about. It's a
The
legal...
photo shoots are very important.
Very, very. Especially the one they carry the woman.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that said, it's a legal contract, marriage. It comes with rights and responsibilities. Properly speaking, before you enter into marriage, these conversations should be had.
Okay.
These investigations should be done. Full disclosure should be made. If you've had an episode before, it's good to let your partner know. Doc mentioned there's the genetic predisposition. It should be said to the other person. Now, when all of this is done, when the issues come up, you're dealing with them in a better way. And in my opinion, somebody may differ, divorce is not necessarily the first option, because it's not even a ground for divorce, properly speaking. Now, there are functioning people or people who have these mental health challenges who are functioning just with a bit of medication. The same way you won't divorce somebody because the person has malaria. You shouldn't be looking at divorcing somebody because they have mental illness. And because there are different kinds of mental illness, some of it are curable, some of it are well managed with medication, and somebody will have a very full life even with those challenges. Now, just divorcing somebody because the person has mental disrupts that family unit, and it has long-term consequences. It has effects on the children. Even you, the partner undergoing the divorce, it has an effect on you. And I tell people, you think marriage is hard, try divorce. It's even harder. When you divorce, the other person moves on. You may move on too. There's a second partner. There are children. Now we have our children, your children, your children. And it's even a more difficult, more delicate relationship to manage. So when we run to divorce as first resort, in the interim or in the immediate time, it may look easier or it may look like a better remedy. But in the long run, you may end up running into more difficulties. So I don't think that divorce is the first option. I think that looking at helping your partner to get help, the doctors are there. They do a brilliant, wonderful job. They'll help you. And then the two of you together can help each other and you can work through it. So no, I don't think divorce is the first option.
Thank you, Lady Edith. Joanna, I would want you to soak it in, wait for a while, then we'll come back to you. So we'll go to Doc again. Lady Edith said that you have to make full disclosures. In Ghana, everything is sensitive. You need to know how to ask. You need to know how to talk about it. How do I find out from my partner? And now you're bipolar kakra. How do I find out that the person is not offended or it doesn't even trigger anything?
Good. She mentioned something about some conditions being treatable, essentially, and others manageable. Now, we don't have a very specific diagnostic test to say somebody has a predisposition for A, B, or C. That is a fact. However, we would normally look at it from a behavioral standpoint. So when we do our behavioral assessments, there are things we look out for. For instance, somebody who is extremely angry all the time may be a behavioral sign of something else in the background. So that is one thing. But she also mentioned in the past, I'm also not too old, but still in the past, you'd go and ask a question, is there anyone in your family? So many mental health related challenges seem to run in families. There are some that are very specific. So if you take what we call the psychotic disorders, what people look out on the street as they say mad, but we call them psychotic. So people who are seeing things or they're hallucinating, people who have beliefs that people are working against them without proof, we call those delusions. Now, those disorders seem to run in families. And of course, especially when you look at first degree relatives, there's almost a 50% chance that the person would develop it. Now, in mood disorders, especially bipolar,
Okay.
it also runs in families. Anxiety seems to run in families. The modern field of neuroscience is teaching us something very interesting, which also says that many of our offspring are going to have predispositions. Why? Our interaction with the world is rewritten or rewriting our DNA, and so we are translating this. So in addiction specifically, let's say that I'm a father who is abusing alcohol, okay? My brain has gotten more sensitive to alcohol, and it rewrites into my DNA.
Okay.
So when I have a child, my child's brain is very fertile for an alcohol addiction once they taste alcohol. So in the same light, if
Because it's in the genes already.
it's in the genes, you've already sent it out.
Okay.
So without the necessary like barricades, that child can easily be prone to any kind of addiction.
Okay.
And it's the same thing that, okay, so once your DNA can be rewritten by your active experience, the likelihood that people would have many different disorders is also high, beyond what we already know, that sometimes we consider things as very social. But even though it's social, it is changing who we are, and it's something that can be translated. In either ways, no need for fear, because there are also ways to recode ourselves behaviorally. So just to give a hopeful end to it.
All these are terminologies in English. Because sometimes you get to meet a person, and the person like, me want mood swings. I mean, there are days I'm not in the mood. Women we are fond of that, like that. Today, I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood. And it's this, I'm not in the mood, I'm not in the mood. Before you realize, you come and diagnose it as bipolar. In such, shoot, sister and brother.
Yeah.
And then when you're going into it, it's like, oh, that's how he is, you can manage. That's how he is, you can manage. Then the next day, it's something else.
Yeah.
How do we really get past this?
Let me make a very quick distinction between mental health and mental illness.
Okay.
Because it often is the reason why there's so much stigma. Now, you see, mental health is like physical health. There are days that you wake up and you're not feeling your full strength, but you're not sick.
Yeah.
Same thing with mental health. So it's on a continuum. There are many things you can do to help your mental health thrive, and things that you can do to make it deteriorate. Now, mental illness, if you think about mental health like a ladder, once you come to the base of the ladder and you start to go below the ladder, we say that somebody is ill.
Okay.
They are sick. That's the difference. So
Okay.
everybody has mental health, but not everybody has mental illness, and that is the
Okay.
first distinction. Now, for us as professionals, we do not make diagnoses based on our own discretion. There are guidelines that we follow. So if someone suffers a mood swing can be indicative of a symptom to a bigger disorder, or it can be
okay.
just a mood swing.
Okay.
So we would normally use a combination of things to say somebody has a problem.
So let's say the situation before we come to the divorce stage again.
Yes.
What can we do as support systems for early detection of our partners?
Absolutely. And it comes back to the awareness. For many people, if you are not aware, you tend to look at the person as they are doing it intentionally. And that frustration is usually what exacerbates the conditions, in my experience. So I'm seeing this person say all these things to me, but I've never thought about the fact that, oh, they might have a mental health related issue. Now, practically, I ask, if you go out that street and you see someone who's unkempt and dirty, and they insult you, foolish man or woman, how many of us will actually respond? Why? Because, oh, this person is not well. But when they are dressed well and they say, how dare you? So before you know, because of the lack of awareness, we are responding to people who are not entirely well. And we are making them see us as a problem also. So in our field, when we work, say, the family's intervention versus our intervention is, the patient say, oh no, I like doctor better. My daughters, my sons, they don't understand because they've been in that situation and they've been going at each other for so long. But because I understand that they may have a problem, I am likely to not mind the problem and attempt to do something about it. So that is one of the things, is the awareness, which is the problem. And seek professional help if you suspect anything. Once it is bizarre, you will know, your brain will tell you, no, something is not right. Ask for a professional opinion from there, and don't be a Google doctor.
Lady Anne, is there a gap in the law? Because you know we have the Mental Health Act and we have other supporting acts. Is there a gap in the law? Is there even a law that will help mental health issues or challenges, as we know now, not illness, in marriages?
So I think that the law and the rights and provisions that have been given to us are so many.
Okay.
I wouldn't say there's necessarily a gap, but implementation of the law is where we need to pay more attention to. Dialogue like this is what we need to do more. Educating people is what we need to do more. So I applaud Mary Wright, because this conversation cannot end here. We need to take it further and see how we can bridge that gap between having a law and implementing it.
Okay.
Give you an example. Dr. Seth just really spoke about the difference between mental health and mental illness. This is a basic, right? When you hear it, but people don't actually know that. So women give birth in marriages. They get postpartum depression. It's a big deal, but we do not discuss it enough. I've had people tell me that they gave birth and they didn't feel a connection to the child. The first few weeks of giving birth can be stressful because you're feeding every 2 hours, you're changing diapers. Assuming your spouse does not have that knowledge of assisting you,
Okay.
and doesn't give you the help, it feeds into your depression. And so now, as a married woman who's taking care of a new baby, by the way, the men are also babies, so you take care of them as well. You take care of the home. It's a lot to deal with. But having that spouse being supportive can reduce that stress, because you're sharing that responsibility. So this knowledge and having these conversations is what helps bridge the gap between the law and its implementation.
Thank you. Now we come to her, and Judge Sedinam, we want to find out, as you have told us, over 10 years at the bar, at the bench, forgive me. Hey, me more dear crowd. I'm sure some of these issues come to you regarding mental health, and then spouses that wants to go their separate ways. What are the challenges that you are confronted with?
So first of all, by the time couples open our chambers and are walking in, we know it's the end of the road. You will not go to a court and file for divorce when you're not ready, because it's expensive, and then it exposes you to more emotional turmoil. Okay. Right. So when they are coming in, we know that we are at the end of the road.
Okay.
Which invariably means that there's a lot of emotional baggage walking in through the doors into our chambers. So some of us even joke about it, that we suffer secondary trauma from listening to the couples. As judges, we suffer secondary trauma. I mean, there are many examples I can give. There have been times when one particular woman removed her the bottom slit, okay, and dragged her bum on the floor, cursing all of us. That's clearly a lot of stress. So as you start the divorce suit,
as you start, once they walk in, you are already prepared for whatever shock is coming your way. It could be a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of words thrown at each other, many things from the past being brought back. What do? We listen, we don't judge. Quite contrary, right? We listen, we don't judge. You listen till they have cried, they have shouted. Well, that's my personal policy, that let them vent. Even when we are, my clerks are trying to stop them, I tell, no. I have tissue, I have water, a lot of it in chambers. Let them vent. Keep going, I'm listening. Keep going. By the time they are done that day, some level of stress would have left. Now, because we are so used to it, we've each developed coping mechanisms, as Doc said.
Okay.
Each judge has a certain type of coping mechanism to deal with them, so that you can deal with the legal issues.
Okay.
Because every time they want to deal with the legal issues, the emotions will come back and cloud the whole thing, make it very murky. So the judges have coping mechanisms. One of the ones I use is that I always ask them by court order to submit themselves to the nearest public hospital with a psychology department for the, evaluation and therapy or treatment if needed. It's my personal thing.
Okay.
Maybe
It's
because
not
I
the
have
law that's requiring.
No,
Okay.
the law doesn't require you to take care of the mental health of the litigants going through divorce in your courts. You're supposed to deal with the legal aspect. But with practice, I realized that the emotional, you see, I'm not a medical doctor. I cannot diagnose what's going on. All I know is they are stressed. And the stress is disturbing my work. It's disturbing my legal work. So I need to address that problem so that the legal work will become clearer for me to deal with. And I'm not equipped to do so. Who is equipped to deal with that? Medical doctors. Okay. So when I was at Teshi, I was using LECMA. When I moved to Adenta, I was using UGMC and 37. Now that I'm in Accra, I'm using 37. As long as they are a couple, they've lived together for some time, they are bickering, they are accusing each other of so many things in the papers and in chambers, it means that I want them to speak to a professional. When they are dealing with that, every time they come to court on the next agenda, you will see a certain level of control, a certain level of healing. I have personally observed it. Sometimes they'll walk in and the woman, usually, unfortunately, it's always the women, looking disheveled, hair basa, clothing, she didn't even look in the mirror. And I quickly recognized it. So by the time they go for the first 2 rounds and come back, she's looking different.
And which of the two will be seeking for the divorce?
Usually, well, both of them. When it comes to divorce, no one particular gender counts for divorce more than the other. Oh. Divorce is so generic that either male or female, they go for it once they feel like it's too much. So we look at the legal reasons for divorce. Okay. But because this conversation is about mental health, that's why I didn't want to go into the legal aspects per se. But divorce aside, there's another aspect that many people don't know about. It's a domestic violence aspect. Whenever we mention domestic violence, everybody thinks it's a criminal case. But there is a civil aspect of domestic violence.
Tell us.
Yeah. So, in other jurisdictions, people hear of restraining order. I got a restraining order against him. Did you know there is one in Ghana? No. There's something called a protection order. There's even occupation order. So, under the Domestic Violence Act, you can come in a civil suit. You don't need a lawyer. If you feel so stressed, you are so abused, in fact, you feel like life is coming to an end, rush to the nearest court near you, go to the registrar, whether you are male or female, you just feel that this is the end. If I don't seek help, this man, this woman will kill me, something is going to happen. Go to the nearest registrar, tell them you want a protection order from the court. And you don't even need to notify the other party causing you the stress. It's ex parte, if it's urgent. So you come to the judge, they'll put you before the judge, you tell your entire story. If you've got pictures, I've dealt with cases where very strong women that you would look on the outside and say, oh, this is a strong woman, uniformed woman. But she's run to the court on this order, this application expertise. And when you see some of the pictures, iron marks, this, iron burn, and all sorts of things. So when it comes like that, the court will give emergency orders. And those orders will not be sent by the woman. The court staff called the bailiff will go and serve. We order the nearest police station to go and explain the orders to the man. Now, one of the orders that are in the Domestic Violence Act is, when we say restraining order, it means you should not come a few meters, maybe 50 meters. We have 50 meters, but depending on the severity of the issue, we could make 100 meters. Now, what will happen if you both live in the same house? This is the only matrimonial house. How do we say, don't come 50 meters near? So we have another order called occupation order. We can actually remove one of the parties.
From the house?
From the house.
Okay.
There are many laws in Ghana that can protect your mental health, not just the Mental Health Act, but under the Domestic Violence Act, even using Matrimonial Causes Act, we could still protect you, because the law says that in every case, whether it's criminal or civil, if you need to protect someone, use the Protection Order Act once they're in a domestic relationship to protect the person. We can remove you and give you another place. Of course, you would have to finance that.
How would you balance this legal tussle or legal help with the sensitivity of it? Because you see the way I was looking at you, I'm like, we're having a discussion during the break that the moment you do this, the next question is, do you really want your marriage?
Yeah.
Do you really want to stay in this home? So how do you balance that?
So, like Doc said, if you're not well, usually everything happening is tainted with the unwellness. So when we take you through the legal process, for example, we do the protection order and even do an occupation order, separate you two physically, then the court goes a step further and says, start therapy. By the time, let's give it a month or two, the unwellness will drastically reduce, right? And when it's reduced, it means that it doesn't necessarily mean this marriage is coming to an end.
Okay.
So you see, because
there still will be hope for the marriage.
There could be. People have gone
because
for
women
therapy.
are not coming mostly, or men too. The stigma is there because then they will look weak. But the women more are not coming because they feel like, I will lose my marriage, I will lose my man, who will take care of the kids.
Yeah, but from my practice, from my experience, I have seen quite a number of couples reconcile after we go through that whole process. It's unwellness of the mind. And once the mind is healed, a lot of the things that we were fighting about would fall away. And once they fall away, we can continue living together. But so divorce, for example, going straight for divorce would be addressing the issue from the shoot. You're cutting the top of the tree. It will grow again. If you take the same conditions into another relationship, you'll be back at square one, right?
Yeah.
But if we get to the bottom, you get a court that takes you through protection order, occupation order, therapy, etc., and you're able to resolve that problem, it means that you've addressed the problem from the root, which means that whether it's with this partner or another partner, you are now a better person. So that's why I don't want to conclude that if you go, the fear is there, of course, the anxiety is there that if I take it to court immediately, it will mean that the marriage has come to an end. But the facts in evidence show that it's not necessarily true.
That's great. Lady Edith, so whilst you are doing this, how do we protect the autonomy of the family, the children? There will be children involved, or let's just assume that there are children involved, and even the person that we want to help with a mental health challenge that we want the person to get better.
Okay, so in Ghana, there are laws for everything. Everything. We used to even have a mosquito law. You know, oh yes, Yes, it's been repealed, but it was in existence. So there's laws for everything, and like Lady Ann said, for me, I think the gap is with implementation. And so you can go under various acts or various laws to get protection for the children you're talking about. I mean, under the Matrimonial Causes Act, there's protection for children under those circumstances.
Okay.
Even under the Mental Health Act, you can get help for the spouse who is not too well, and then you can go on to get help for the children. So you can go to court, and it doesn't even have to be a divorce proceeding. You know, you don't have to start the process with divorce. No, you can go to court to get an order for the protection of the children. There are interim orders that we can go for. You can make applications in the family court. But I believe that, and I'm talking from experience, that maybe some amount of practice direction may be helpful. I am so pleased to hear my lady speak about her personal process in attending to these situations, because I find that lacking in the higher courts. I mean, when you go to court and you're doing a divorce, and you know you're not allowed to plead mental health, so the person comes under unreasonable behavior. The statement of the unreasonable behavior, you know there's a problem. But you can't say it, you know. If you're on the other side, you are afraid to admit it too, because it will have consequences on the subsequent issues, financial settlement, custody orders. So we play around it. But I think that if it's properly set out, you know, that this shouldn't affect the outcome of the case, then even as practitioners, we'll be more willing to disclose some of the issues that our clients come to us with.
Okay.
Particularly, I had a client a few years ago. I mean, between us lawyers, I realized, you know, she could need a bit of help. You recommend it and she doesn't want to listen. What do? The court suo motu can appoint a guardian ad litem for the party.
So motu, that means the court on its
own.
Okay.
Now, even you as a lawyer, when you realize there's a problem, you can do that application for your client to get that help. Now, when there are children involved, we can have supervised visits. Okay. You know, mental health does not take away your right to have custody of the children.
Okay.
It will probably just put it under certain strict conditions. So maybe there are extra orders where you have to go to the hospital, you have to report back sometimes to the registrar on your progress. The children will have visits by social welfare. Sometimes they'll put out a social welfare inquiry report. And then with that report, the judge is able to make the necessary. So all these are available to help us to deal with the issue of the children. So there are various avenues where the children can be protected. We can do that by the courts. We can do that by the acts. We can do that. I mean, even beyond all of that, the bottom line is that you don't lose your right as a parent, you know, so we shouldn't shy away from it. And maybe us as practitioners, we should look at the well-being of the children in the long term or in the long run, than maybe winning the case or getting what we want out of the matter. So these are some of the options that I believe are available.
Our time is almost up, but I go to Doc. Doc said, so some of our partners who have mental health issues or challenges will use that as basis to not do what is expected of them, be responsible, kind of neglect their parental responsibilities, and some to become violent as a result of that. Are there any safeguards?
Well, that's what I was explaining earlier about awareness.
Okay.
So people can mimic symptoms. In fact, that in itself is a disorder, but I can, yeah, it's actually a disorder. But I can essentially, if I know what it is and what it's not,
Okay.
then I'm not likely to make a mistake on it. For example, in recent times, we are seeing an increase in what we call personality disorders. Now, they don't fall directly into the schizophrenia, depression. Now, these are enduring patterns of maladaptations that people have grown with. And a personality disorder can make someone, so like a lady she was saying, the person will slap themselves and then go to the police station and report the partner.
Okay.
That,
my
the
partner
person
did
is
this to me.
abusing me. I mean,
Okay.
and these are essentially personality related issues which are also there. And so I am always advocating, once you notice something that you realize, no, it's bizarre, seek professional advice.
Okay.
And the awareness helps you to know what it is and what it's not. Now, if for anything, there is no mental health condition that's getting management that will be enduring. So in popular media, people give this impression that their episode affable, but there's nothing like that. If you're getting management, there are episodes. So there are times where you're good and then a trigger hits you and then you fall below your threshold. So it's good for us to know all of these things. I've had people who have shown a certain thing to the media. As for them, always they are in their,
They are up there like that.
It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
If they are not getting treatment or if they are not adherent to the interventions, it's different. But most of the time, with awareness, by reading about it, you would know what it is and what it's not, so that if it falls outside the bracket, you can do something about it.
Lady Edith, that will be your final comment. The two shall become one. If my partner is proving difficult to seek for mental help or health help, can I force the person to the psychologist, the psychiatrist, or mental health?
I think we've even answered this question by all our comments, that no, you cannot force somebody. That's going against their human rights.
Okay.
But what you can do is be supportive, try and get help. That fails, then you can go under, get an involuntary court order or guardianship order,
Okay.
so that you can give them the help that they need.
Thank you. Your Honor, is there any reforms that you would suggest briefly
Reform as in for the law
for
or
the
for the
law
judges?
and for the judges? Because you also go through secondary trauma.
Yes. So for the law, I think today we've mentioned that a lot, that there's a need to reform our laws. I'm actually an advocate for reforming laws because no community is static. We are evolving, so our laws must evolve. So definitely, but that is within the ambit of the parliamentarians and all those who have that duty. But policymakers and organizations like this, conversations like this can be reduced into writing to the Attorney General's office, so that we can move forward from there. But when it comes to the court, the judges, we need training. A lot of us don't have any knowledge about these things. So they even get angry and they'll cite you for contempt. When you start getting upset, they'll get angry themselves and probably cite you for contempt, unless they are very well read, open-minded, and understand human nature enough to see something of what's happening. So I would recommend that, Doc, you come and give us training.
That's great.
Come and give us the much needed training, so we can, like what the self-help remedy I gave myself, to be referring couples and children, the children of the household, for therapy whilst I'm doing the legal work. That should be something that we could work into our practice by way of practice direction or other procedural rule. So
Thank
that's
you.
what I would advise.
Sorry, our time
Yeah.
is up. But my lady, some men feel like when their wives bring them to female judges, it always doesn't go well for them. So sometimes they don't want to say, oh, she's taking me to a female judge. Then I am doomed.
I understand.
Maybe that's on a lighter note,
Yeah.
but please let's be there for both the men and the women, because we hear some men go through some of these things.
Advice well taken.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope we've done justice to mental health. And when vows become blows, and other challenges. Thank you. Our guests or our panelists have been Judge Sedinam and then Lady Edith. She's a lawyer, and Dr. Seth, she's at the University of Ghana Medical Hospital. Then Lady Edith. Lady Anne, she's a lawyer and a mental health advocate as well. I am Mame Yakunama. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our Chief Moderator, Mame Yakunama, for doing us this honor.